participation, it was at the end of the day your choice. That's key. It's not about forcing this religion or that religion. What the regime did after coming to power, it wasn't even less than a month. It was in March of 1979 that they announced there needs to be compulsory veiling. And the women were among the first major social sectors and groups that protested. They poured into the streets.
And this is at that time you mentioned when the Shah was ousted,
yes,
and there was the uprising, that left a void in many of the important offices around, and that the mullahs and the fundamentalists moved in very quickly to fill those places.
Yes, many of the leaders and intellectuals were still in prison, and people opened the doors of the prison,
that
released
the Shah
them.
had imprisoned?
Yes, so they hardly had any chance to get organized groups. So the regime got in power without any legitimacy. So they started attacking any movement toward getting organized and getting societies formed. So they would send these paramilitary groups, just like what's happening in Iraq, you see, to attack these organizations and their offices. Many newspapers and magazines opened because there was just a new opportunity for freedom because of the Shah dictatorship was ousted. So many groups started getting formed, many newspapers got founded, but again the regime was just too busy attacking them and again trying to suppress that freedom of expression and a little bit of political freedom
they seem
people
to have a
gained.
sophisticated understanding of what works to bring to power and what's how important it is to either have the choice for the liberty and the freedom to speak, or how important it is if you want to oppress that so that you can keep a group in. They're very sophisticated in their knowledge and workings.
Yeah, they all. So I think.
So 1 month after, you said, one month after coming into power.
Yeah, they announced that you gotta cover your hair and you gotta, they announced, how your outfit should be, and that trend still continues and it's getting worse. So.
And why didn't people just say no and not wear them?
And they did. That's exactly what I want to say. That one of the first protests, even though people were at the time very optimistic, there is a change of regime and there is an opportunity for progress. But again, that's what the regime did. It was a big warning sign, and many intellectuals who could have enough foresight for the future, even women with Islamic belief who were covering their hair, they joined the protest against the government's decree. And many who are leading the resistance movement today, at the time, they were side by side with all the other women who did not want to choose to cover their hair. And at that time, I would say that was when the regime declared its war against people of Iran who wanted freedom and liberty.
And how did they do that?
So, it's very symbolic. I don't want to let the covering your hair is symbolic of the fact that you have no control over your life. I dictate to you what to wear, what to say, where to go, what field to study, what jobs you can do, how you can travel, any custody right. So from that point on, regime started moving away from international standards of human rights and women's rights, and specific women's rights Iranian women have gained over that 7 years at that time. And it took only 2 years after the revolution that we had such a repressive crackdown on personal freedoms, on political freedoms, on freedom of expression.
And I've heard of it happening that women on the streets might be targeted by police for having a headscarf that is a little too far back, shows too much hair, or if they have a color on. They certainly can't wear lipstick or anything that makeup.
If you look at their government's, Iranian regime's penal codes and civil code, you see that they consider all of these a violation of morality.
And so they are jailed or?
Yes, so they are condemned to have slashes, so they take you to prison, and so many of slashes, and then so many months, so many years of prison sentence. And at that point, any resistance toward that ruling, your sentence gets worse. There were many occasions that the defending lawyer in the court defending the human rights activists and women rights activists, they were arrested.
The lawyers were.
The lawyers got arrested. So that is, I just, I'm going on these events, kind of to illustrate that not only this regime has attacked the personal freedoms, basic personal freedoms, and the rights that United Nations International Declaration of Human Rights have already approved, and Iranian government is supposed to be a signatory to that rule. They're supposed to support it and report on its compliance. They are not. So that's a big issue here. And not only that, people, when they protest, and when, according to the legal proceedings, you have lawyers, even your lawyers are not allowed to defend you. And so the judicial system and all the civil codes, everything, all these different branches of the government, they're all following,
like facades.
Yes, they're all following the same line of thinking.
And what can the UN do then? Can they enforce that these reports are made and accounted for?
Very good question. It takes us to the policy option. That's one of my interest area. That this is not the first time United Nations is faced with a government that is not complying. And it's not the first time that probably the government has not complied once or twice. Over 50 times United Nations General Council have condemned Iran for violation of human rights. Amnesty International, even the last few days, we had many alerts coming from Amnesty International regarding youth being sentenced to execution, women being sentenced to stoning, very barbaric form of punishment.
I understand. There was just recently, there was a young man, 20-something, that had a problem of drinking, and he was drunk in public, and they stoned him to death. Is that correct? So, and actually, what is important here is that when we look at the corruption, the Iranian regime is the source of corruption, is the source of creating an environment for Iranian people in terms of unemployment. There is such a high unemployment, there is such a high level of hopelessness. And there's no accountability. They have to answer to no one for this, but the United Nations,
well,
shouldn't
they lie. They lie. So that's what's very interesting. Iranian people came to know this, that this regime is the worst liar. And actually, when it comes to Persian cultures, they always knew that. We have an example of, we use the fox, the animal fox. And the animal fox is like, of course, very deceitful. So they characterize these mullahs like fox. They are deceitful. They are master of deceit. So when they come to international bodies, when they interact, so when you have Iranian regime representing Iranian people, which with all these violations, they are not the proper representation, and then you have international bodies, either United Nations or other countries around the world, and then you see the interactions. If these interactions are helping the Iranian regime to stay in power, in a way, they are indirectly helping the violation of human rights against general public, against the ethnic groups, against all the religions, against the youth.
For instance, our trade deals, when we...
To continue.
Yes, we bring up in our trade deals that a country must have a certain standard of human rights, and if they don't have those, we tend to bargain it and go ahead and do our trade with them, hoping that they will change.
Yes, so when I look at these pictures around us, I see there are pictures of human trafficking, that there are documented research